I'm always the dork in the gym that's like, okay, that's cool, but
Brandon, thank you for your time. I'm really glad that you are able to have a chat with me because I'm really interested in your approach. 'Cause I work with lots of people with disabilities, and few of my friends do the same. So it's nice to see your perspective. And I have to say that I admire your outgoing and ability to, go out there and record your stuff and share your thoughts about it because I think it's very, very valuable. That's a long
yeah,
introductions. Hope you're right.
yeah, no, thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it, and I've been looking forward to talking to you for a good while now. So,
Cool. Can you tell me how did you get into karate? I've seen that you done recently a short intro to your dad teaching you in Zendo-ryu karate.
mhm,
Can you
mhm.
just tell us about your background a little bit?
So let me just make a little bit of a bold statement real quick. I never actually stopped doing karate.
Hmm.
Because like I said, um, my background is in Jendo-Ryu, which if people don't know, it's a really rare form of karate these days, which is a mix of Shotokan karate and judo, all
Hmm.
mixed together into one package. My father has dabbled in all kinds of different karate styles before that. Subakdo, Tang Sudo, Kempo karate, Ed Parker style. Um, so yeah, my dad is the main reason I even started martial arts at a very young age, watching him in his garage teach his students, and the way he taught it was not very, how do I say, it was very outside of the box of karate, but it was still karate.
Hmm.
For example, like he would do like a quick entry, destruction, takedown into a joint lock really, really quickly. Um, so I started out in that sense of karate, and then believe in 1997 or 8, or even late, even before that, we met a gentleman by the name of Larry Hartzell, and he was one of Bruce Lee's original backyard students
Hmm.
in the arts of Jeet Kune Do, and we met him pre UFC one,
Hmm.
and I loved his approach because it was just like my dad's style of Kempo, only it fused boxing and catch wrestling and sambo and all these wonderful grappling arts that I felt more applicable for my body in close range. So the reason I say I never quit karate is because even though now I've been a full instructor in Jeet Kune Do for over the past 15 years, I see more of my karate in my Jeet Kune Do these days than really anything. I mean, I see karate in everything, and that gets me in trouble a lot online. But
Tell me about it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I see my karate in jujitsu, which I'm a purple belt in. I see my karate in wrestling, in all arts really. And so I've been teaching on and off since I was 17 in one of my dad's first dojos. And then I taught all throughout college. And then I decided to put some videos online, and they just blew up. And from that point on, I just was invited to teach at different seminars throughout the states, and it's just been really great getting to work with a lot of different disability groups and people of all different walks of life. So,
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, but on thing what you said for me was a little bit different. So I seen my karate through the wrestling lens. When I went to the wrestling club, I
Hmm.
start to notice my karate as it should be for me. So
Yeah,
I totally get it that you see karate everywhere because it is everywhere. It's like a eclectic mix of all the grappling arts with a little bit of striking.
yeah.
So can you tell me what disability you actually have and how that impacting your training and
So I have cerebral palsy.
hmm
Um, it's called spastic diplegia in medical terms. It affects the right side of my body,
hmm
which I don't have full use of. And so uh, I've had to learn to really focus on doing things to guard the left side of my body a lot because it's my
hmm
strong side. And that's what like drew me more to Bruce Lee's philosophy for such a long time over over my karate is because in my own ignorance, I thought karate was really just a boxed set way of thinking where
hmm
where Bruce Lee he really drew from every style and taught every student differently. And that appealed to me so much with a person with a disability because you don't teach, someone with CP and a blind person the same way.
hmm
You know, one of Bruce Lee's first students was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he is a very tall human being.
yeah.
And so Bruce Lee taught him differently, obviously. Why? Because of his long limbs. His fighting style was much different.
hmm
Um, but like I said, in my ignorance at the time of my life, I just didn't know any better.
hmm
And until when I was still in college, I actually saw Michael from Karate Breakdown
hmm
when he had Karate Culture on YouTube, and I began watching his videos, and that set me on a rabbit hole to dust off my own roots. And I was in wrestling practice one day, and my coach, he was doing like limb clearing drills, for hand fighting, and
hmm
he was doing a hikite or a down block with a hikite to clear the grip. And I thought, holy crap, that's karate. And he was like, no, that's wrestling. I'm like, no, that's really karate. And so it sent me on this trail of rediscovering my roots in such a beautiful way. Um, and like I said in one of my recent videos, I'm a little late to the party, but I I think karate is now more beautiful than ever.
I do agree. And I don't think so you're late to the party. I think you're bringing very unique point. The reason why I'm saying like I said, I'm working with people with various disabilities. And what
Hmm.
I found is that many clubs just deny them access because, oh, we don't teach disabled people, right? In our BJJ group, I do BJJ as well. We've got a
Hmm.
cerebral palsy student as well. He just actually, well done to Seb. He just took 3 medals on yesterday BJJ competitions
Wow.
for a disability group. So it's always pleasure with the training with him, and I think his story is very similar. That wherever he went, the the people kind of don't want to get involved. Maybe they don't want to injure the person, or it's not for you because you're gonna injure yourself more, or you can't do it. How was
Hmm.
your starting into both karate? Obviously, your dad had a different approach,
Hmm.
but in wrestling and in the BJJ, have you found out that people have been resistant to, or because you're a disabled person or less able person, you might be get injured and they try to keep you steer you away?
Sure, sure. So in the early 90s, it was very much like that.
Mm,
Um, I had seen some or heard of some karate instructors within my city that were Kempo guys, and they would reject people with disabilities because they couldn't do the technique fast. And
Yeah.
if you couldn't do the technique fast, then you couldn't do it at all. And with all due respect to Kempo, that's really a piss poor response
Mm,
to for an individual to say to someone with a disability. Um, my one big, I guess I could call it a regret in my life, is that I was never able to wrestle in grade
mm,
school because at the time there was no one doing it. And my doctor actually wrote that like on a medical release that I was a health risk and I could get severely injured. I understand why he did it.
mm,
Um, but if you look at wrestling now, there are more disabled people doing wrestling these days than ever before
mm,
that have no limbs that are visually impaired. Um, and so on the subject of karate, again, I'm going to make a bit of a controversial comment on karate and as it relates to special needs or adaptive people. I see so many instructors teaching these kids in wheelchairs how to do, high blocks and middle blocks and low blocks. And that's wonderful. That's great and it helps them. For me though, like if that's all you're going to teach those kids without any meat or substance,
mm,
I think is robbery. The same way, my dad grew up in his karate era where all you learned was line kata
mm,
and you didn't learn any of the functional techniques or bunkai until after your first degree black belt. And that's just heartbreaking for me to think
mm,
about because, guys like you and Michael from Karate Breakdown and Chris Hansen, all these wonderful people are showing the meat and potatoes of karate that my father never had. And it's a bit sad in a sense, but I'm very happy now that it's happening now rather than later.
mm. Yeah, I think it's definitely changing. I see that so many people in the UK changing, and I guided Tracy. I don't know if you had a chat with Tracy Radley.
Yeah.
She's doing an amazing job to a degree that she's got a wheelchair user,
Hmm.
and she hired a wheelchair and strapped herself in and done training just to learn how it is, because it is easy for us to say, oh, we just do this, right?
Hmm.
When you don't actually experience the disability is very very different to, and I see that in BJJs, right? I'm a very small guy and the big
Yeah.
guys tell me, oh, just do this, as a small person, do this. You know shit. You've never
Yeah.
been a small person, you don't know how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
on the same point, I can only imagine how it might be being disabled person, but I cannot kind of have it 100% view in that. That's why when I'm working with my students, I say just, listen, I don't know how it is. You guide me. Together we
Hmm.
can figure it out, but I don't have insights to, I've got a student with the MS who cannot stand for very long. You
Hmm.
know, you tell
Hmm.
me what we can do, when you need to sit down, what we need to do. So,
Yeah.
um,
No, I think your view on it is so beautiful. And if honestly, I don't mean to sound like a kiss ass, but if I could instill that view that you just expressed to me beautifully into modern day BJJ instructors, I would do it in a heartbeat because 90 probably 98% of BJJ instructors that I come across are not like that at all, because it has to be done in the way that is presented to them in the classical sense of jujitsu. Now, like one of my coaches, his name's Scott, and he's a first degree black belt. He has been absolutely a saint to me because he is willing to think outside the box of BJJ, whereas most other instructors are very married to how a technique is supposed to be or how an arm bar is supposed to be. But if you're paralyzed from the waist down, there's no way in God's green earth you're doing a traditional arm bar
mm,
from the guard. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So,
To be honest, I thought that VJJ is more open into it because I see quite a lot of maybe my Instagram and stuff feeding me things that
Mhm.
I'm looking often. So I see a lot of disabled players, and
Mhm.
my impression was, plus our coach team have an approach like you said, right, outside of box to help Seb to be the best version of himself in
Mhm.
BJJ. So my view was that the BJJ is a bit more open than karate in that regards, but you're saying it's a little bit different.
I find it to be very close-minded at times. And the reason why I say that is because of what BJJ is now today. It went from a mostly complete system
Hmm.
to being in a watered down sport, very much like karate, because
Hmm.
you know the history, how it started, and it just evolved into a spectator sport where people could easily understand it and do it. And but I mean, I train at a sports jiu-jitsu gym, and I'm always the dork in the gym that's like, okay, that's cool, but try that in like a real self-defense situation where there's stress and emotion and someone that really wants to try and kill you. Try pulling guard then, you know. So I'm always that guy.
I've when I was listening to one of your videos, you pointed out very valid point, which I have to admit I didn't think about till I heard
Mhm.
it from you.
Yeah,
It's all I think it was on Ian's video on escaping, and he said, "Oh, that's all great, but I'm disabled. I can't escape. What should I do then?" Can you explain a little bit of that? What's your view on that point? Because
yeah,
in itself, the escape is kind of lip service. Just people say, "Oh, just escape." And as we learn in our dojo, when you put obstacles, people don't know what's happening and where to run, and it must be even worse for the people with disabilities.
yeah. First off, I love Ian Abernathy. He's a good dude. I would love
He's
to,
a great guy.
yeah, I'd love to talk to him someday down the road. But you know, you've probably heard too, like in self-defense circles, everybody's just says, "Oh, I'd run away,"
Mm,
and I'm like, okay, but first, how often do you practice actually running away, like full sprint running away? And if you have kids, are you going to pick your kids up and run full sprint?
mm,
Probably not, you know. Uh, so for me, working with a lot of disabled groups, it's just not possible.
mm,
Even if you're in a wheelchair, I'm not going to turn my wheelchair away from my attacker and wheel away because I'm exposing my spine and
mhm,
back of my head to them. So for me, it's it's a sad reality that yeah, I have to stay and fight. So that's why I spend so much time working on the psychology of body language and learning how to read the body, human body, signs of anger and aggression. Situational awareness is something I preach all the time at my clinics because if you're not aware of what's going on around you and what's making you psychologically and emotionally uncomfortable, your chances of survival go down the drain real quick. And I make my students that are even in wheelchairs, we used to do this drill called the wall drill, where you'd be pinned in a corner and you would have under a minute to try and resolve the situation, which meant that for my students in wheelchairs, they had to they had to learn to cover their heads right away, enter into a body lock clinch, and try and either finagle a limb so they can't strike you, or they draw a weapon from their person
mhm,
because that's what it's typically like or going to be like in real life for someone like myself or
mhm,
someone that's paralyzed. It's going to happen very fast and very sudden. And I always tell my people that I work with, like, you hope and pray that some other bystander is going to come in and help you, but
mhm.
that's not a reality always.
Yeah,
And so,
it seems to be that people don't want to get involved because of the risk of being sued and
Yes.
stab themselves and stuff like that, and people just take the phones and recording, which is very sad.
I agree. So,
How did you had to adapt the physical techniques to yourself to work? Um, my father-in-law is disabled as well. His right arm, sorry, is completely off after his
mhm,
accident when he was 18.
mhm.
And he's a black belt in Aikido. He's a black belt in Karate. He's 74 and he's just doing started Goju Ryu in Thailand. So I
Wow.
think he's adding up to his examination for a second dan this year. But I always like to train with him because he always finds really interesting adaptations to the
Mhm.
techniques that I'm showing because he's got only one hand, and that grip in that hand is very very strong and crushing bones like. So I
Yeah.
was interested what your process of analyzing the techniques and finding out that it works for you.
So, my mind as a martial artist is very different than the modern people today, especially on YouTube. That just like to go online and just troll people and say that it would never work and this is crap and this is no good. But for me, I like to exhaust all my options.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really just means that I got to get my butt out on the mat and try stuff
Mm-hmm.
and see what works. A lot of times it's getting tapped out or punched in the face to really know that, okay, that wasn't such a good option. Um, Remember, there was a couple of years ago, I was sparring with a friend of mine. He had really thick boxing gloves on,
Mm-hmm.
and I was trying to do all my Wing Chun, hand deflections and whatnot. And I remember he just caught me flush on the jaw and with the jab, and it rocked my head back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, okay, I have to get close to my attacker. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not that like doing Wing Chun hand deflections wouldn't work at a given moment, but for me not to take damage, that involves again learning to cover my dome and enter into
Mm-hmm.
a body lock really quickly, or or sensing that the attack is going to come and mitigating it before it gets any worse. So it's just a matter of being able to make mistakes a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think we all learn from that, right? It's because
Yeah,
the what we think it works, it on a kind of compliant opponent, it not always works in a sparring and stuff like that. Do you do a lot of sparring? I suppose BJJ you have to because there's no
yeah.
other way. But do you do a lot of like a punching sparring and stuff?
I'm starting to again. I've been dealing with a back injury for the past several months that I it causes me to lose like feeling in my legs and I like with a lot of numbness. And
Hmm.
so I've had to taper back on my aggressiveness in training and sparring, and I've just had to do a lot of methodical technique training.
Hmm.
Um, and I know that goes against the grain of our modern society where you have to pressure test all the time and go balls to the wall. But I just turned 40 and this back injury just hit me. And I'm like, okay, this is me now. I have to be really cautious of my body. If I want to be doing this in my 70s and 80s, I have to taper it down a little bit. And people just don't realize that your body can change at any moment. You can get injured and never be able to use your body in certain ways ever again.
Yeah, and 40 seems to be that kind of point because I had the same 10, 40, and suddenly my muscles start tearing by doing silly things like I picked up the
Mm.
shopping and my lat
Yep.
went, oh no, fuck you,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
shoulder and stuff like that.
Yep.
Seems to be 40 is the down downward spiral. Um,
Yeah.
how do you keep in check You said now you change your training a little bit. I changed my training a little bit as well, but it took me a very long time to realize that the 20-year-old in my head
Mm.
is not a 20-year-old body on the outside. And how do you keep it in check? I suppose it's the ego, right? We all want to do
Yeah.
a great, good training, but how do you work that mentally?
I have to give myself a lot of grace and compassion because uh the owner of my gym, he likes to push his students and wants them to work hard, and I completely get it. But just the other week, we were drilling arm bars from the guard, and my buddy Jordan, he also has CP, and we were training together, and all I did was squeeze hard with my legs to seal the armbar, and my legs went numb. And I thought,
Oh,
oh man. So I had to sit out
mhm,
the rest of the class. And what I realized is that you can learn more sometimes in microdosing your training than doing a full exhaustive workout.
mm,
And so this is why I love kata so much because like the beginning series of my Hanchi is something that I've just been really addicted to over the past several months. I love drilling my Naihanchi katas. And every time that I do one form of Naihanchi, I find something new.
mhm,
And so it's, as you probably can relate, it's like an endless cycle, layered perspective. It's you all for me it's not so much about finding these big goals, but finding little new nuggets of truth in the path to being a better martial artist.
mm. Sure, yeah. Yeah, that's why I like kata. Kata is something that you can do million times and you always find something new in it. Plus, it allows you to train even if you've got injury, right? Because you just take it easy, go through the motion and you are able to do it. So this is, I think, the unique selling point for karate.
Yeah.
You can address all the age groups and abilities. So,
Yeah. And since trying to adapt it now, like from a sitting perspective in a wheelchair, that's been really fun. Um, it's hard though trying to formulate functional bunkai from a
mm,
seated position because everybody is so different. And so my biggest learning um, awareness was that in kata there's no married techniques, so to speak. And so one movement could be like an underhook, or it could be grabbing the back of someone's head and pulling them into you, or spinning them down into a circle, or it could be learning to fight up the middle of someone and hitting them. But it's not a one size fits all approach. You just have to be open minded enough to find an application. Um, every day that I'm at the gym doing jujitsu, I have my gi on, and I'm standing there or kneeling on the mat doing my kata, and people are just looking at me like, "What the heck is this dork doing?" Because they don't know, but I'm always the dork in the gym that's like, like this chambering at punch motion isn't what you think. It
mm,
actually can lead into a surogari, or the hikate motion in jujitsu shows up when I'm grabbing your sleeve and trying to do a scissor sweep. You
mm,
just did a
yeah.
hikate to set that up. So it's my biggest goal of my martial arts journey, so to speak, is just to get people to see the bigger perspective of martial arts.
Yeah, that's
Because,
cool.
yeah, because well, when I was growing up, man, my dad's school, we used to have all different styles come in. We had karate guys come in, ninjutsu, judo, sambo, and we all just wanted to learn from each other, and we all wanted to spar safely. And I found that to be so beautiful because there was no ego involved. We all just wanted to be happy and train. But somewhere along the way, that changed. And now it's starting to be less, but it was my style is better than your style, and my dad can kick your dad's butt, and blah blah blah.
Mm.
That's all just stupid to me.
Yeah, but it is simply stupid. But creating cults, you create money, right?
That's very true. That is very
Yeah.
true.
So if you've got a faithful followers, they're always gonna be paying for services for glorifying teachers and paying for their stuff. So that's the way
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah, I know. It's sad.
Hmm. Um, what martial arts had what tough my English today is leaving me. What impact training martial arts had on your mental health?
Um, it's been very positive. Anxiety and depression, like many other people in this world, is something that I've dealt with. I've found that, just training again, kata, just standing there doing my kata is like basically taking a Xanax for me. Like, no, it's really like a stress reliever, and it really just gets me out of my body.
Mm,
And so I'm not against medication or counseling or anything of the sort, but I think that martial arts is so valuable for mental health. Even if you go to the gym and you do Muay Thai and you
mm,
bang on the pads for a half hour, that's pretty good. But and it's cheaper than a counseling session without insurance, that is. But yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, I like to say that the karate is a very good addition to a therapy. If you've got really problem, obviously go and check up with the doctor.
Mhm.
But martial arts, or actually any sports or activities within the kind of non-judgmental and supportive group is
Mhm.
positive and it goes well with the physical activity goes well with the treatment you're receiving. So you're always gonna feel better when you smash those pads and do some sparring. It just kind of, you cannot think about anything else when somebody tries to punch you in the face, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, um, one of my friends is deaf. She's got a hearing aids.
Mm.
She's deaf from being very young. So she was born hearing, then lost her hearing. She lip read, and something that I never considered. She said to me, and I would like to know how it is within the kind of disability martial arts. You said you're going around now and teaching in different groups of
Mhm.
disabled people. Is that neat community, or there are people who kind of attacking each other? I'll give you an example because she said that she had an equal amount of grief and being picked on by a deaf community as a regular people because she was not deaf from birth. She's not real deaf. She's the
Mhm.
pretend deaf. Do you see that as well, that animosities within the disability groups, or is it like positive?
Sadly, I can relate to the prior statement. And, my girlfriend is an amputee, and she has a couple different autoimmune diseases that just plague her body every day. And the one thing that she'll tell you is like people, even within the amputee community, they are just rude.
Mm,
And I never really understood why other disabled people are so mean to other disabled people. It's like we're supposed to be family in my mind.
mm,
And but the just because a small people of people in disability groups are jerks does not mean everybody is like that. And so yes, you do have to kind of weed through the butt heads to find the good
mm,
ones. But I try not to focus on that so much. I try to be very positive and find ways and people that I can help that actually need my help and want my help.
mm. So
So,
you said you're teaching around. Are you a full-time teacher of martial arts, or you're doing something else and you just a hobby?
um, I try to put out video content as constantly as I can. The winter time here for us is very difficult
Hmm.
because of the snow and it's hard to get around. But in the summer is when we do most of our advertising for classes. Um, and I'm at the gym a couple times a week, and I try and help anybody that I can I know this summer is going to be pretty busy for us because we're working with the Special Olympics this summer,
Hmm.
a couple groups.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we're really going to try and make this a very productive summer for us. Down the road, God willing, I'd like to have my own school in some format. But right now, like anybody else, it's just trying to get the best of the internet and put out good content.
Mm. Do you've got a chance of having support from your government? Because it took me nearly 7 years to hop in on our UK government to have funding and support, and I've lucky to happy to say that we've got some of support, and other ones we're fighting again, but I can provide the classes and be paid for it through the government. So is that available for you as well?
We haven't looked into those options yet. Um, it's hard even to live with a disability
Hmm.
on um, disability payments from the government as is.
Hmm.
But you know, you're probably right. We should look into those a little bit and see what we can't come up with. Maybe they would be willing to help us because it's such a needed thing. But then again, like insurance companies these days they're very much sticklers, and if they don't
Hmm.
see something as a medical need, that they're not going to pay for it. So I'm assuming there'd be a ton of hurdles, but
Hmm.
I'm willing to explore what could be. So
Hmm. Well, I hope that you're gonna be have. I'm gonna send you few organizations and contacts I have in States that might be willing to at least kickstart you,
yeah,
and
that'd
and,
be
and
great.
we'll see how, I can't promise anything, but if
I
you
don't
don't
know.
try, you won't. But you said you are more invited now to do like a seminars and workshops with people around the States. Is that through they found you through the internet and the
Yeah,
posts?
yeah. I mean that's how people find us to begin with is through Facebook and Instagram, and it's funny to even think about because growing up, I started putting up flyers that my dad made for adaptive martial arts, or basically like adaptive MMA.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I passed flyers out all throughout my high school and community. I got zero traction from it. But
Hmm.
like now I can reach over thousands of people just in one post
Hmm.
and on social media. So really like social media has just been how we've had so much success.
Hmm.
So. And then, of course, I've had to grow some thick skin over the years because I have dealt with so many a-holes on the internet over the past 15 years. It's just, I try to ignore it anymore.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I've had dealt with myself and kind of in our circles. I'm kind of know the guy as a guy who loves trolls. I inviting them to me, and I used to be very offended and impacted by the negative comments,
Hmm.
but I learned to not respond emotionally,
Hmm.
and I had the kind of a rule that I always polite and I'm conversating with them till they give up. So I'm happy now to say that for the last year I had a minimum amount of trolls. So I think that if you fight back, they kind of stay away from you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to a vast degree, the karate community has been way more open-minded than the modern day jiu-jitsu community. Um, to my videos, to my perspective on self-defense and surviving real-world violent encounters.
Mm.
That isn't to say though that like I've had some trolls even within the karate community as well, and that made me sad because it's like you are really just trying to nitpick at someone because you don't like something,
Mm.
and to sit there and bash someone is the lowest form of human existence, at least in my opinion. Because to me, our lives are so short, and to for a person to want to spend their life online to a person they'll never meet face to face, and criticize someone when you could be spending your God-given breath and energy trying to make someone's life better does not make any sense to me at all.
Mm,
And so, my girlfriend's helped me a ton to get thicker skin. And I just had to really tell myself that I'm here to help people. And if
mm.
someone doesn't like what I'm doing, then forget them because they're not going to listen anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I had the same, and I was talking actually last week with Michael from Karate Breakdowns, and
Mhm.
he said it as well. If you help only one person, that all it matters.
Mhm.
Everybody else, it doesn't matter. If you can help one person, you've done a good job. So
Mhm.
I think you're doing a fantastic job sharing your experience and stuff. What would you what would be your advice to a younger person in your situation or with some kind of disability? What would be steps to take to get into the martial arts? What would you avoid that you done that will make their life easier?
Ah, that's a really good question. For a lot of people, the biggest obstacle is fear.
Mm,
We consider ourselves to be a mobile dojo, meaning that like we just don't have one specific area that we teach at.
mm,
We are willing to go wherever, you know, or whoever is gracious enough to host us with a clinic or an event.
mm,
And so we have tried to go within places that are good driving distances, but even with something as close as 10 minutes away, people just don't want to show up. Even if I've told them that it would be free,
mm,
there's just this fear inside of people that don't make them want to train. And so I think that the biggest thing is you got to get past that fear in some capacity and just put yourself out there and try different styles. It's not always going to be jujitsu.
mm,
That's going to offend some people, but oh well. It might be a judo or finding a good wrestling coach that can make you tougher. Or it could be Krav Maga, it could be karate, it could be Wing Chun, it could be Kali. So whatever style that a person can gravitate to for their body type and the way their body works, I'm fine with. And I'm really thankful that my martial arts lineage involves all of that because I have the ability to not only teach empty-handed forms of martial arts, but weapons as well.
mm,
And so a lot of it is just, like I said, being able to take that first step and finding what works for you and actually finding an instructor that's actually open-minded that
mm.
can again think outside the box and be willing to trial and error and find what works for them, not of what is already set in stone in their system.
So how long it took you? I think that's the key point, the finding the right instructor, right? It doesn't matter what's gonna be, just finding the person who is willing to work with you.
Mhm.
How long it took you to find your BJJ gym that was that thinking outside of the box?
Before I did jujitsu in the gi, I spent 10 years under Eddie Bravo's system
Oh,
of
cool.
10th Planet, and that was a pretty open-minded style. I just felt like for as long as I did 10th Planet and as innovative of a grappling system as that is, there were gaping holes in my grappling game.
Hmm.
And not like life altering, game changing holes, but when you don't know how to recover your guard from side control,
Hmm.
that is a very big problem for me because I felt like they got away from the basics of jujitsu and it became so sophisticated. And again, it was sport oriented at the, you know, and so my prior coach, he had this fixated dogmatic mindset where if you didn't win, you didn't amount to very much in his eyes.
Okay.
And so I had to get away from that, put the gi back on, and then I realized that I can slow down. I can do these minute basic movements that are better for my body, they're more energy efficient. I'm not having to burn my gas tank out, so to speak, trying to improve myself or position. Um, I think the gi is very good for self-defense. I know many people would disagree with that and say, "Oh no, the gi sucks for self-defense." But if you think in the wintertime, right, like we're wearing hoodies and jackets and everything else, and so being able to know how to grab onto stuff and break grips is very good to
Mhm.
know um, in a real world self-defense encounter.
Yeah, I found just one of the topics on my seminars is the control by the gi from a point of view of karate,
Mhm.
because karate forgot as well that you can grab the gi and pull it, and it gives you a great control. Even if you're
Yeah,
standing and you're holding somebody's sleeve on the elbow, you got a lot of control over that body. And a lot of
yeah,
people, because of the gloves, they don't use it because they just ready to punching and kicking. And
yeah,
in the grappling, because they so much into a wrestling, and wrestling doesn't grab side as well, right? Because you don't have a gi.
yeah,
And people forgetting about that possibility that you can actually grab, pull, and off balance people. So I prefer to do BJJ in a gi. I tried no gi. It's fun, but like I said, it's very fast paced. And being a small guy in a gym full of big guys, it's not fun.
yeah, yeah. No, I think a person should be able to do it all. And like the ancient art of Tegumi,
Mm,
you look at their gi structure was not like the modern BJJ kimono. It was
mm,
very short sleeved, and you could still grab onto it, but in a lot of ways, you had to rely on those overhooks and underhooks
mm-hmm.
to gain better position. And so I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's being able to adapt in any situation you find yourself in. And just because someone's wearing a short sleeve shirt does not mean that that short sleeve shirt can't be used to choke someone with.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's all about your mindset.
And what are your future plans for the your channel? Your because you're growing super fast. It's
Yeah,
nice to see.
I I honestly feel like I'm just getting started. So, like I said, I want to open my own school someday. I don't know how that's going to work or whether it's going to be, how it's going to be done, but it's a dream. And I future plans. I'd like to write a book on my martial arts journey. I was working on it for a while and then I stopped. And then I had this epiphany with my karate. And so I think I might just start writing it again and talk about more of that. But I want to teach more.
Mhm.
That's all I really want to do is teach more and help people and keep doing what we're doing and keep evolving. And I'd like to down the road, if it was possible, like work with, we have a really small police department here
Mhm.
in our town, and I would love to do some self-defense or even grappling with them because you think about like the average law enforcement encounter, it's very up close. You
Mhm.
kind of have to be to put someone in handcuffs, right? So I would love to work with law enforcement and just teach wherever the door opens.
Awesome. Can I give you advice about the book?
Yeah.
Just fucking do it.
All right. Fair
I
enough.
give I give that to everybody. I wrote 5 books on martial arts and my anxiety and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, and it just simply you just have to do it. I know that the brain tells you to have a break, have a do that, have a that's not good, that's not good. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. We'll consider it done. I'll get it done.
If you
So,
need any help, reach out anytime. I'm willing to help you. I went through the process of self-publishing and stuff like that, and help few other people to publish their books. So just
yeah.
hit me, and then I'm willing to help. Again, thank you for your time. I'm sure that you're gonna have your dojo. If you put your mind to it, it's gonna happen, and you're gonna have a successful school. I love seeing more videos from you, and I'll be sharing them. And you're welcome to join our group, the Karate for Mental Health. I think you've done it already, haven't you?
I'll double check. I think so.
Yeah. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Pleasure.